Terrence Bates here with your Real America's Voice news break. Thanks so much for being here with us. Federal prosecutors are looking to slap suspects who are caught up in the Trump administration's crackdown on crime in the nation's capital with federal charges. The head of the criminal division at the Washington, D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office told his staff this week to charge as many federal cases as possible against people who were arrested in the recent D.C. sweeps. In the meantime, Vice President J.D. Vance paid a visit to National Guardsmen who are working to secure the nation's capital just a little while ago.
Look at what's happened in Washington, D.C. in just the past 9 days. We've seen a 35% reduction in violent crime. We've seen over a 50% reduction in robberies. We are seeing really substantial effects because these guys are busting their ass. So I wanted to come here, highlight what they're doing, say thank you in person, obviously pass out a few burgers, but most of all, just send a message to the American people. Look, we don't have to live like this. We do not have to allow our cities to be taken over by violence, by disorder, and by chaos.
Attorney General Pam Bondi says since the Trump administration's takeover of Washington's Metropolitan Police Department, there have been at least 465 arrests, or 465 arrests, for everything from homicide to drugs to gun offenses. There's still no word, though, how many of those arrests are eligible for federal prosecution. Federal convictions, by the way, tend to carry lengthier sentences. The Texas State House is expected to vote on the state's controversial congressional redistricting map today. The plan advanced out of committee late Tuesday, setting up a showdown between House Democrats and Republicans. However, Republicans have a significant majority that should make passage of the bill inevitable. You may remember dozens of Texas state Democrats left the state for 2 weeks in hopes of derailing passage of the maps. Many returned to Austin this week, though, creating quorum and setting the stage for today's vote. State Democrats are arguing their holdout was successful because it bought time for California to redraw its voting districts to give Democrats an advantage and offset any Republican gains in Texas. President Trump supports Texas's new voting map as he hopes to extend the GOP's majority in the U.S. House. Well, folks, we've got a bird's eye view for you of Hurricane Erin. Here's a quick look at the eye of the massive storm. This video was taken from inside of an Air Force plane. The storm is continuing to grow in size and expected to bring a massive storm surge to the East Coast.
Author of the MAGA Doctrine and president of Turning Point USA, here's Charlie Kirk.
All right, I want to tell you guys about My Patriot Supply before we get back to this interview. My Patriot Supply is amazing. The summer isn't just hot, it's historic. Flash flood warnings are at a 40-year high, and it's not slowing down. Towns underwater, roads washed out, and in every crisis zone, the same scene. Crowds standing in line waiting for bottled water, waiting for food, waiting for someone to show up and save them. They tell you that help is on the way, but what if it's not? Go to MyPatriotSupply.com. You think this system is built to protect you? Go to MyPatriotSupply.com to find out how to claim your 4-week food supply and millions of Americans who are preparing with My Patriot Supply. Go to MyPatriotSupply.com. That is MyPatriotSupply.com. Portions of this program, The Charlie Kirk Show, are brought to you in part by MyPatriotSupply.com.
So I'm going to charge the government $3. It's going to cost me $1. I'm going to make $2 of profit, and that's going to be a consistent way of doing it. The problem with that is it disincentivizes innovation. It disincentivizes investment into new ways of doing things because the company is always going to make the same profit margin, right? And the government there are a lot of rules and a lot of executive orders that have come out, particularly in this current administration, to move away from that model. But the civil servant class is still stuck there. And we're seeing that in Medicare as well. At HHS, there are a whole host of technology challenges and procurement challenges, some of which aren't that hard to solve, that they're most technical problem, but they're very hard to solve because you have these people with different incentives and different sort of fiefdoms, as I was saying.
Yeah, and there's just a recalcitrance to any sort of technological innovation or adaptation. And I guess that's part of why you started your business, and it just goes to show that the private sector is doing everything the government once, wished it could do, from SpaceX to Palantir, you mentioned, right?
Both SpaceX and Palantir had to sue the government to get business.
So talk about that.
So Palantir sued the U.S. Army and won for this same Federal Acquisition Streamlining Act called FASA statute, where basically the government was not allowing Palantir to compete on a very large defense contract because the government wanted to build it themselves. And so,
what do they do? Also expand it, because people attack Palantir all the time.
Look, I don't work at Palantir. I'm not a spokesperson for Palantir, but yeah.
I care about truth. I don't.
Sure,
I don't
sure.
like lies.
I'm just sharing that so that they don't get mad at me. But at a high level, it's very simple and it's very unsexy. Palantir is very good at building software that allows people to analyze data. It integrates data and it analyzes data. Yeah. It's very simple. So it's, if you're upset at Palantir, I think you also have to be upset at Microsoft for Microsoft Office. I think you also have to be upset at Amazon for AWS products. I think you have to be upset at pretty much any company that builds data analysis products, which is hard to be upset at because they actually do provide a lot of value to the world.
Yes. So they sued. I interrupted you.
So Palantir sued the Army for not allowing Palantir to compete on a particular government contract that Palantir thought that it was best suited for. And the government's claim was that it should be built by the government. And this is, I think, a much broader issue, which, again, we're seeing in pretty much every federal agency, where the government is still trying to build software themselves, which makes no sense.
I mean, the government can barely deliver the mail. No offense to them. I mean,
100%.
So wait, so you're trying to say the government is building I mean, how is that even possible? It's like an incomprehensible concept.
There's two sides of it. One is the government employs a small number of actual engineers, very small. We're talking about like a handful of people at each agency who try to build. But the much more pernicious and much wider version of this is you have the government consultants and contractors. These are, the Booz Allens, the Accentures, the Miters.
They're literally like attachés of all that.
Exactly. They have government, they have government IDs. They're viewed almost internally at times as government employees. And they are the ones.
They're SGEs sometimes. Yeah.
Exactly. They're the ones sucking the money out of the system. And I think if you want to go after anyone, you go after the big consultants.
Well, and let's zero in on that. That never gets talked about, right? So we're always like, okay, the Department of Labor has, 60,000 people I don't say that much. Whatever, Department of Education. But there's sometimes double or triple that of government contractors. That's where we should start the cutting.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't want to get too political, but why have Republicans refused to start that? A lot of them finance their campaigns too, right? Like you have these major law firms like McKinsey where they're consulting, and they just get checks every month from the government. And they have badges. They have like literal, it's not visitor badges. They're able to badge in and badge out.
Yeah.
And they have, it's not just a special government employee. They have like a permanent government, like they have desks of people that are just for contractors in the government.
Yeah.
Has this made us more efficient?
No, it's made us dramatically less efficient.
That's the argument. They're like, well, we need these, McKinsey types, or because otherwise the government would be super inefficient.
I think the issue here is there are definitely places in very narrow scopes where the government should rely on third-party experts for things. That is 100% correct. But it's been so ballooned into let's use consultants for everything, and let's assume that consultants are the best people to build things.
Yes.
When instead, we should look to the commercial market, look to the free market, and the government should say, hey, is there a better product that exists? Let's buy it and integrate it, rather than, and that can take a month, rather than let's give Accenture or Booz Allen or someone 5 years to build a worse version of the thing that already exists.
How many contractors are there in the federal government?
I don't know. I don't know the number.
But it's a lot. It's got to be over 1 million.
I would be surprised if it weren't. Yeah.
And I guess you have this permanent civil service bureaucracy. You have this permanent government contractor class. And at DOD and CIA and the Pentagon, there's a ton of contractors that, especially in the intel world, like remarkable. And so then the civil service, we kind of know they're just slow and bureaucratic. But the contractors, they should be held to an even higher standard. And are they?
No, absolutely. In fact, they're held to a lower standard. They mess up and they almost fail upward. You have these contracts that go so far over budget and take so much longer to build than they're supposed to, and then the government just says, oh well, we're already pot committed. We already spent 5 years building this thing. Let's just spend another 2 and let's just give them more money. And this is a product in many ways of that cost plus contract instead of an outcomes based contracting. And we're seeing that at the Health and Human Services today as well. It's not unique to DOD or to Intel. It's really across every part of the government. And I think the number one place that Americans actually see the government more than any other place is with their Medicare. You have 70 million Americans dealing with Medicare every single year.
70 million.
70 million Americans.
How often do they shift from plan to plan?
People, it really depends on the details, but most people are eligible to make a plan switch roughly once a year. Some people more than that, but it depends on the person's details.
So and the CMS, which is run by Dr. Oz, that's a beast. Medicare,
huge
Medicaid, and what would other ways with your company or outside? How else do we save money with Medicare? Where are some of the other wastes in this behemoth?
I think there's a few areas. One is it's just a massively inefficient system today. If you think about inefficiency creating waste, you have people who are signing up for the wrong Medicare plan. And different studies show different things, but roughly 70 to 90% of Americans are on the wrong Medicare plan for their needs. So if you think about the entire system, you have this massive inefficiency of what plans people are on, how they utilize those plans, and how the plans serve those end users. So that's one big area. The second big area is utilization. Like you have these Medicare plans that have all these benefits, but they're all locked in the plans, and they make them so hard to use. And so seniors are offered these great hearing, dental, vision, over-the-counter benefits, but they can't actually use them. So one thing we've done at Chapter is we've built a free app that allows people to look up their Medicare plan, look up their over-the-counter benefits, and just redeem them at the click of a button, and then magically a few days later, their free benefits show up at their door, instead of having to spend weeks calling different carriers, calling different middleware providers to understand what's going on. And this is just one very small example, of course, of the inefficiency and the waste, but you magnify that across everything, and there's just no price transparency across the entire system. So
no price transparency.
No, if you go into a doctor's office and ask how much is this procedure going to,
they don't even
cost,
know.
They don't even know exactly.
It's not like they're withholding it. They're just, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's not malicious.
Third party paying is like the downfall of American healthcare.
It's one of the two. I think that's one. I think the second biggest issue in healthcare is there's no longitudinal incentive for insurance carriers to provide good health. So
what does that mean?
Every year, your employer can switch your healthcare, or your Medicare plan can change. And so if you're a health insurance company and you want to create long-term, good preventative healthcare, you don't know that you're going to have that customer in 10 or 20 or 30 years, not to mention next year.
Yes.
So where's the incentive for the health insurance company? Not to be charitable to the health insurance companies, but where's the incentive for them to make me healthier today rather than in 50 years? The longitudinal incentive just isn't there.
Here's a provocative question for you. Why has no one done what you're doing yet?
When I started the company, pretty much everyone in the industry...
It just seems so obvious.
I agree. Pretty much everyone in the industry told me I was crazy, that what I wanted to do was illegal, and that I would fail within the first 3 months. And so I think some of it is path dependence. I think a lot of people who operate in the health insurance space and the Medicare space just, frankly, don't think about things in a new way that often. And part of it is technical. It's a very hard data and technology problem that we've had to solve. And I brought some of the best engineers I've worked with at Palantir and at other places to build for this. And the best technology individuals, the best companies don't really build for seniors. They build for problems they see.
That's a good point.
I think
how do I get Chinese food to my dorm,
right,
to my apartment quicker?
And I think it goes to this systematic issue that we have actually in our society, that we don't have the right engagement, the intergenerational engagement with our seniors.
No, and it's just like, I know we have a ton of amazing seniors that are watching this program, and they're getting hosed by this stuff. So you guys are using artificial intelligence, is that right?
We are.
Talk a little about that, then I want to have more macro conversation on AI.
We use a lot of applied AI. We don't build foundational models ourselves, nor should we. But AI is really, really great at automating repetitive tasks in a high quality way. So what a lot of our
that's a good way of putting it.
What a lot of our competitors do is they'll hire teams of 30 or 40 or 50 people to listen to samples of phone calls, because we do a lot on the phone. And they'll listen to samples of phone calls and say, hey, is this Medicare advisor giving a good experience or a bad experience? But they're listening to 1 or 2% of calls. What we do is we have an AI listen to 100% of calls, flag issues, and much faster, much more real time, and much lower cost.
What company is able to build that kind of a model for you?
We use we're always testing the latest model, so we use.
So is that a large language model,
yep.
or okay?
Yep. So it's a large language model. So we use all the big guys you'd expect.
And they'll be able to do a boutique thing for. Is that how it works? You would go to a ChatGPT or a Gemini or a Grok, and you say, "Hey, I'm a corporate actor," and they build. Is that how? I'm always interested how the backdoor corporate stuff works with these, because I know front-facing AI just.
The way it works is we go to their APIs. So we go to Gemini, Anthropic, OpenAI's APIs.
Perplexity.
Yep, whatever.
What do you mean by API?
So it's an app, basically a back-end program that allows us to programmatically communicate with that service.
All right, before we end this segment, I want to talk to you guys about Legacy Box. Legacy Box is one of my favorite partners on this program. It's a way that you guys can digitize and memorialize all of your family memories and make them permanent. You know that box in your closet, the one full of old tapes, dusty photo albums, maybe even reels of film? It's time to do something about it before those memories fade or get damaged for good. Go to legacybox.com, promo code Kirk. That is legacybox.com/Kirk. You'll be glad you did. For a limited time, you can save 50% when you go to legacybox.com/Kirk. Legacy Box is the company I trust for those memories. Football tapes, birthday parties, holiday gatherings. We as conservatives should preserve our past. Go to legacybox.com/Kirk. Find that box wherever it is, attic, basement, closet. Go to legacybox.com/Kirk and take care of it today. You'll be glad you did. That is legacybox.com/KIRK, legacybox.com/Kirk.